How's it going, everybody? Corbin here from Zoco Marketing. In today's video, we're going to be going over Google Ads, everything that you need to know from step 0 all the way to finish. We're going to talk about how to set up your Google Ads account, how to set up your campaigns, your ad groups, your keywords. If none of that even makes sense to you, then you're in the perfect place because we're going to be going over all of the nitty-gritty details of what you need to know to have a successful Google Ads account and campaigns running to ultimately make your business or your client's business more money. Now, because we are going to be going over all of this stuff, this is probably going to be a longer tutorial, so I will remind you that there are timestamps down below if you wanted to jump around section to section or go to the specific area where you think that you need more training or knowledge on. That being said, I do recommend that you watch the video all the way through to make sure that you don't miss anything that's very important in between those spots. One last thing I do ask is if you do find value in the video today, that you don't forget to hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But without further ado, let's jump right in. So the first thing that I do want to explain about Google Ads is how it works and why it's important. So the first thing is if we go over to Google, which I'm sure if you're on this video, you probably used Google before. You can see here that I went through and I typed in pots and pans. And when we type this in, you'll notice that on this left-hand side, there are, looks like 3-4 ads here. And you can know they're an ad because they have this little black ad button right there. And then we also have ads over here. Now there's 2 different ad types here. This is a search ad. That's the first thing that you need to be aware of. And then this one is a shopping ad. Shopping ads only show if you have an e-commerce product, say that you're selling pots and pans for this instance. You can show shopping ads with the images here. If you're doing like a lead-based service, like say you're a plumber or a roofer or something like that, then you can't do shopping ads. You only do text ads. So text ads apply to everybody. And how it works essentially is when you're running Google Ads, you only pay for those ads when somebody actually goes through and clicks. So right now, me Googling pots and pans, these 4 advertisers here and all these advertisers over here have not paid a single dollar to Google for me searching this thing. But as soon as I go through and click one of these ads, which I'm not going to do for the purpose of this tutorial though, then all of a sudden Google then charges that advertiser. And the reason why this is powerful is because there's a lot of high intent when somebody's actually going through and clicking on your ads. Chances are if they're looking for something on Google, say pots and pans, and they're actually clicking on ad, there's a good chance that they're looking to actually purchase something or fill out a form for a lead or whatever it may be. So Google is a very powerful platform because it is intent-based. If you're on Facebook and you're scrolling through your Facebook feed and all of a sudden you get hit with an ad, you're not on Facebook to actually look for pots and pans or for a shirt or for shoes or for a plumber or whatever it may be. You're there to kind of distract your mind and look at all of your friends' social media posts, and the Facebook post kind of interrupts you. But with Google, it's actually people searching for these products and services, and as a result, you typically get higher intent clicks and higher conversion rates. So that's a little bit on why Google Ads is important. Now let's move on to actually setting up your Google Ads account. Oh, and real quickly, for this tutorial, we're going to be focusing on these search ads, how to set these up and how to optimize them. If you want to learn how to set up shopping ads specifically, it's a little bit different of a setup. And so I do have a whole tutorial based around shopping ads. You can check that out down below in the description if you wanted to learn how to set up Google shopping ads specifically. So now let's get into the actual meat and potatoes. Here is where you could go through and create your Google Ads account. I'm on ads.google.com/home. And you'll notice here on this top right-hand banner, there currently is a promotion where if you spend $500, Google will give you a $500 free credit. If you are starting a brand new account, I do recommend Googling Google Ad Credit wherever you may be located. It may vary. A lot of times they do run promotions, but sometimes or almost always it's dependent on where you're located. So I do encourage you before you create an account to look and see if you can find any coupons to get an extra ad credit essentially. And once you're on this page, of course, we're going to go through and we're going to click Start Now. And I already have access to a lot of Google Ads accounts or have created other Google Ads accounts. So you might see something a little bit different, but essentially you're going to see a button that says something along the lines of New Google Ads Account. We're going to click that right there. And this is going to take us into the actual Google Ads platform where you're going to see something similar to this. Now this is going to ask you what your main advertising goal is, and it's going to try and walk you through what I call a dummy campaign, where essentially Google just tries to get you to set up a campaign as soon as you can without really optimizing it or setting up best practices. So what I do recommend is coming down here and switching to expert mode. Don't worry, I'm going to be walking you through exactly how to run this. Don't let the word expert mode intimidate you. It's one of the things that Google does to get you kind of into this model right here where you spend more money. This is where you have more options and more options to optimize to get better performing ads, and this is how you beat your competitors. So you definitely want to come over here to switch to expert mode. And then this is going to drop us into our new campaign. Now, before we jump into the campaign, I do want to go over here to these slides, and I want to explain to you the Google Ads account structure and what that looks like. So at the very top, of course, you have your Google Ads account, and for us, we're going to go with the theme of pots and pans, right? So we have this account that we just barely set up. The next phase is to actually go through and create campaigns. And then underneath campaigns, you can create multiple ad groups, and underneath multiple ad groups, you can have multiple ads, and so on and so forth. And essentially what that looks like, if we take the example of our pots and pans, I know this isn't the greatest slide, but typically I like to break out my campaigns by products. So for instance, say that we are selling pots and pans. One of the pots and pans that we might sell is a non-stick pot, and another one might be the cast iron grill. Now, I didn't finish the whole thing for all this, but I just want to walk you through this example. For the non-stick pots and pans, this is going to be our campaign. And then the ad group inside of these is going to be the different variants of that non-stick pot. For instance, maybe you have an 11-inch pot, maybe you have a 15-inch pot, maybe you have a green pot, maybe you have a red pot. And then inside of those, each one of those, you're going to have different keywords related to those ad groups specifically. So for the 11-inch pot, we're going to want to do the keywords like non-stick 11-inch pot or 11-inch non-stick pot. And that is going to lead to a specific ad that is talking about, those specific, talking about 11-inch pots, and then leads to a landing page here, as you can see, that goes to my made-up URL, www.cookingwithcorbin /11-inch pot. And then the same thing with the green one or the 15-inch or the red pot. Basically, this is a way that you can customize the experience and make sure that when a user is typing in a specific keyword, they see an ad that's related to that keyword, and then that ad also leads them to a specific landing page. This is how you win with Google and how you optimize your flow. So now that we kind of have covered the structure or the account structure of Google Ads, we're going to come back over to the account, and I'm going to kind of walk you through this exactly on how to set this up. So we have our new campaign here, and the first thing it's going to ask is what your objective is. Now, for most people, I'm going to recommend that you either go with sales or leads. For those who are running apps or different things like that, that's a whole different conversation, but most people are either going to be selling an e-commerce product or looking for leads. So you're going to want to click one of the two here. So we're going to go ahead and go with sales, and based on what you click, it's then going to drop you into a different set of options as well. So you notice if we click sales here, it's going to give us all of these different types of campaigns that we can run. We have search, display, smart, shopping, video discovery. And say if we went through and added leads, it's all the exact same options as you see there, but if we went with app installs, it's only going to give you app as your selected campaign, or if you went with product promotion, it's only going to do video. So realize that whatever one you choose, if for whatever reason you don't see an option that I do, it's probably because you clicked one of these buttons before, or one of these different campaign objectives, and that's why it's only giving you the one option. So we're going to go back over here to sales. And then here you can see there are lots of different campaign types as well. So we have our campaign objectives and our campaign types. There are search campaigns, which are the text ads that we showed before. There are display ads. These are the ones that are banner ads that show on websites or blogs or different things like that. And then there are smart campaigns, which is Google's kind of way of optimizing across the whole platform. Then we have shopping campaigns, which are the ones that I showed you over here that look just like this. And then we also have video, which is YouTube ads, and then discovery, which is kind of also a combination of all of those as well. And so those are all the different campaign types that we have for a sales specific campaign objective. We're going to go through and click search here. And then it's going to ask what we'd like to what ways we'd like to reach our goal. We're going to do a website. So I'm just going to put in here, I'm just going to put Zoco Marketing for now, but in the actual website that you're advertising though. And then here is where it's going to ask us to create a conversion action. So once we click that, what a conversion action is basically it's making sure that Google knows when you get a sale or a lead or whatever it may be. I do recommend setting up conversion actions before you actually go through and run the account. Depending on your situation or your store, it's going to be a little bit different of a setup. So I do have multiple resources down below on how to set up conversion actions for a Shopify store or for a WordPress site or for if you're running leads or things like that. So check out that video below to learn how to set up your conversion tracking and make sure that's done before you actually set your ads loose. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to continue on though for the actual conversion tracking. So we're going to hit continue here. And next it's going to ask us to name our campaign. So for here, we're going to pretend that this is our non-stick pots. And then next it's going to ask what networks we want to run on. And I generally recommend unchecking both of these. This is ways that Google gets you to show up on kind of crappy placements and sometimes gets you to waste money. So I do recommend unchecking both of those boxes. We're going to click on here and show more settings so you have an idea of what options are available to you. And inside of here, you'll notice there are lots of different options. Here we can set a start and an end date for our campaign if we'd like, or you can have no end date if you wanted to just be on a daily budget or run continuously. If you want to select your end date, you could do so there. Campaign URL options. This is an advanced option if you wanted to go through and add URL tracking to your campaigns. I'm not going to get into that in this tutorial. And then we have dynamic search ad settings. This is also a little bit more of an advanced setting as well. And then we have the ad schedule where you can go through and actually say, you want to run Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, you don't want to run on the weekends, or you only want to run on Sunday. You could go through and adjust that in this setting right here. Moving on, we then have the location targeting. This is where you can go through and add, say you didn't want to target the United States, maybe you wanted to target somewhere else. You go through and enter another location, and you could target that specifically. Say you only wanted to hit people in New York. You could go through and click that United States target, or you can exclude specific locations. So maybe you want to target people in New York, but you didn't want to target people in Nevada for whatever reason. If we wanted to come through here and say Nevada, we want to exclude people there. You could do that as well and get as granular in this location targeting as you'd like. Or if you just wanted to keep it simple and target all countries and territories, you could do that, which I don't recommend because you will spend a lot of money and waste a lot of money. Or you could do United States or target the specific country that you're looking for. So lots of options for location targeting. Pretty straightforward there. Here also we have languages where you can go through and target the language that you'd like. Next, we have our budget and bidding, and this is a very important section for Google that I want to make sure that everybody understands. Here's where you can set a daily budget for your campaign. For this one, we're just going to set this at $20 a day. As an example, you can obviously go through and customize this depending on how much you want to spend. And then next is what we have is bidding, and this is what we want to focus on is conversions, or you can optimize all sorts of different things. Now, here's my advice for bidding and bidding strategies if you're just getting started. If you have a brand new account and you have zero conversion data inside of your Google Ads account, I recommend starting with clicks. Just to keep things simple, because if you want to focus on conversions for your campaign, essentially Google has zero data to go off of, and they're going to try and optimize people to get sales, but they don't know what that actually looks like. And so I recommend starting with clicks to start getting people to your website and actually purchasing and collecting that data. Once you have that data over a 30-day period, then you can move on to trying optimizing for conversions, or where this is essentially just getting as many sales as possible. Conversion value is getting you the most revenue as possible. And then other options are the click and the impression share. Clicks is obviously going to get you the most clicks as possible, and then impression share is the amount of times that your ads is shown. So say that you have a competitor that is bidding on the same keyword as you and you want to show up 100% of the time, that's where you can go through and say, okay, Google, I want to show up, I want my impression share to be 100%. It may be costly to do so, but it might be worth it to your business to run that. There are very few times where I recommend going through and running impression share. Most of the time it's for a branded campaign or whatever it may be. But like I said, to keep things simple, if you're brand new to Google Ads and this is the first time you're running ads inside of your account, I recommend starting with clicks. Once you have the data, then move on to either conversions or conversion value. And you'll notice when you choose clicks, Google is going to try and get you to move over to conversions. Now, one thing that I do want everybody to be aware of that's new to Google Ads, when Google suggests something or gives you some sort of error saying most advertisers do this or we recommend doing this, always be a little bit skeptical of those suggestions, because at the end of the day, Google is a business, and at the end of the day, they do want you to spend the most money possible. Now, some of the recommendations that they do give can be really good, but sometimes it can lead you down the wrong path. And so for this, it's going to say you've chosen to focus on clicks using maximize conversion bidding strategy, but your account tracks conversions. You could get more conversions by choosing to focus on conversions, which that can be true, but right now, if it's a brand new account, you don't have any of that data to optimize towards, it's not going to get you the best option. So we're going to come through and we're going to click this to set a maximum cost per click bid limit. This is good if you wanted to make sure that you're not spending too much for your clicks. So say that your pots and pans, you only wanted to pay $1.50 for those clicks, you can go through and add that there as well. And then that sets your maximum cost per click limit. So that is a little bit about the bidding strategies. Feel free to leave comments down below if you have specific questions on this. I'd be happy to go through and answer those as well. I know it can be a little bit of a confusing situation. I'll probably do a whole nother video just on bidding as well, getting deep into the weeds on what to do in certain situations or different strategies. So keep an eye out for that one as well. We're going to scroll down now to the actual ad extensions. And this is a really important part for your Google ad strategy. You'll notice here that Google even says get up to 15% higher click-through rate when you do show ad extensions. And what ad extensions look like is if we scroll over here, you'll notice that right here, this is an ad extension. So this is what's called a site link extension. You'll see that it takes up more room than the ads that don't currently have those on side of there. This one has what's called a review extension, where it's actually showing the star ratings there. So it stands out a little bit more. And there are all sorts of different ad extensions. in the ad extension types that you could add to your ads, and essentially it just makes your click-through rate go up more and more. So if we scroll back over here, we're going to add a couple of these extensions. The first one being a site link extension. And what this looks like is you can come through and actually add, say that we had pots and pans, where we could say something like best sellers, or best selling pots, whatever it may be. And then here's where you could add a description. Check out our top selling items. And you are limited to 35 characters here, as you can see, for the site link text, and then the description. You're going to go through and add another description as well. I'm just going to copy this right here to give you an example. And then you will add the final URL. And the final URL will want to take you to a page that looks something like, www.cookwithcorbin.com or cookwithcorbin.com. And then you'll want to direct them to something that's like best selling pots. And this needs to be a real page, right? Best selling pots, or whatever it may be. Just to give you an example. And then another one that you could do is you could have another product like, hey, this is for our Dutch ovens. Check out our Dutch ovens. And then same thing, add a description there, and then a final URL. And then that one would be, /Dutch oven, whatever it may be. And it will go to your website inside of there, basically to give users more options when they're looking for the ads. You can see here, this one gives you our starter set. If you click on here, it's going to take you to a page that probably looks something like a starter set, and then shop all cookware sets. This is just going to take you to a page that looks similar to, just their home page essentially. So now we are going to go back over to our ads here. We're going to then collapse this, just because this is we're going to collapse that there. And then next we have call out extensions. This is where you can come through and say, things like maybe free shipping, or next day service, things that you just call out your brand, or say you are part of the Better Business Bureau ratings, different things that you can just come through and add onto your ad, you can call out on your ad itself. These don't have specific links, but they will show up kind of on the bottom area. I'm trying to see if there are any on these ones. I'm not seeing any specific callouts extensions, but also something very useful to go through and add to your ads. And I say adds to your ads. Last is you can come through and add a call extension. I only recommend adding a phone number if this is if there is somebody to receive that phone call while your ads are running. If you only have somebody on the phones between the hours of 9 and 5, you can come through and actually set a schedule so that the number shows only between the hours of 9 and 5, whatever it may be. And like I said, if you don't want to add a call extension, then I wouldn't go through and add that one. It's not necessary. It's just something that can improve your ad if it's actually needed for your business. So now that we have all of these settings in play, we're going to then move on and hit save and continue. And you'll notice that it is then going to take us, so we're in the campaign settings, it's now going to take us to the ad group level. We're going to hit save and continue. We're going to wait for this to load up. And then now we are in the ad group level. And if we go back to our slides here and we remember, as you can see, we created our campaign for our nonstick pots. And then now it would be up to us to go through and create all of these different ad groups, or even more. For ad groups, you can do one ad group per campaign, or you could do as many as you would like, honestly. There are some campaigns that I run that have 50 plus ad groups. There are some campaigns that I run that have one ad group, or some that have 4. The amount of ad groups is totally dependent on what you want it to be. If we scroll back over here, we're going to do the example of the green pots, nonstick pots. And you'll notice that it is taking keywords from my website that I added here, that is Zoco Marketing, which obviously isn't a cooking website. So that's why I added all of these different keywords inside of here. But we're going to go through and actually delete these real quick. And we are going to enter a product or service. So you can either enter your website here for Google to crawl that and get ideas for keywords, or you can enter a product or service here. So we're going to put a non-stick pan and see what pops up for us. And we're going to hit get keywords. And you notice it's going to populate a lot of different keywords for us. So yeah, you'll notice here that we have non-stick pan set, best non-stick pans, non-stick wok, all these different types of pans and keywords that we can go through and add. But I do recommend going through, now that you've added this, to kind of go through and give it a vet. Say like, okay, these are the keywords that I would actually like to run. For instance, for these, if we look at this Rachel Ray pots and pans, I know that that's a specific brand, so I don't want to show up for that one specifically. We're going to delete that one. And if I wanted this to be my green pots and pans, I'm going to want to go through and actually add green to each of these for people that are searching for those. Now, I don't know if green pots and pans is something that people look for often. This is more of just an example to give you an idea of how to organize these different ad groups. So I would then go through and find all these keywords that match this one that are specific to my green nonstick pots and pans. And then I would name this, my green ad group, green nonstick pots. And if you wanted to add another keyword inside of here, you could do that as well. Say that you were selling water bottles. You could add that as well inside of the keywords, and it will give you a lot of different ideas. You can say update keywords, and then you can say yes, replace keywords, and then there are more inside of there as well. So this is a good way to generate keyword ideas for you, just in a really quick manner. Now, I do want to also spend some time talking about keywords here. This is something that's very important. You'll notice down here that there are different, Google calls match types. So we have our broad match, we have our phrase match, and we have our exact match. And if we look at the difference between all of those, if we come over here, here are our different match types. Now, for a broad match, modified broad match, don't worry about this one because this actually has been, Google has sunsetted this and it's not a thing anymore. For the broad match, essentially it's going through and adding your keywords with no symbols. That looks like this, where we don't have anything before or after the keyword. But for, oops, I went to the wrong one. But for phrase match, this is something that looks like this, where you have parentheses before and after the keyword. So if we did a phrase match, it would look like this, where we'd go through and say, okay, parentheses, oops, at the very beginning of this keyword, we'd say parentheses right there, and then that would then become a phrase match. And then finally, we have what's called an exact match, and that is represented through the brackets. So if we wanted to add a keyword as a exact match, we would go through and add the brackets before and after the keyword. Now, you may be wondering, what does that do, or what does that look like for the keyword specifically? I'm going to get rid of this water bottle keyword and update these just to keep it clean for us. But for instance, non-stick pots and pans, if we come back over to our example here, the keyword that for this example is tennis shoes. If we just do tennis shoes without any symbols or without the phrase or exact match, it can appear for keywords or large variants or close variants. For instance, the keyword tennis shoes could show up for socks for running shoes. For phrase match, it's going to show keyword phrases with words before or after close variants. So for instance, the keyword tennis shoes could show up for Nike tennis shoes. When somebody goes through and actually search on Google, Nike tennis shoes, our keyword could show up with phrase match. With exact match, it's the exact keyword that you're showing. So this is, if you are really conscious about your cost and you wanted to be the most conservative as possible, you're going to want to go through and add all of your keywords as exact match, because then only the keyword that is shown is what is going to appear for your ad. And I realize that I am in the way here. If we scroll over, you're going to see that tennis shoes, the keyword example tennis shoes is only going to show up for tennis shoes. You're not going to have these close variants of Nike tennis shoes or socks for training. Now, if you are new to Google Ads and you wanted, like I said, be conservative with your budget, I recommend exact match. Most of the time, honestly, I use phrase match because I think it's like a good in between the broad and exact match. And if you are experimenting and wanting to find new keywords, broad match is going to be a great one for you because it gives you an opportunity to see the search terms of what people are actually searching for to find your brand. And so if you wanted to expand your keyword account, broad match is going to be the one for you. So if we come back over here, based on your business goals, you're going to want to go through and add these keywords as either exact match or phrase match. And I know it kind of sucks. You got to go through and add all these symbols here. It does get kind of tedious depending on how many keywords you have. It can be kind of annoying. But let's say that we only had this amount. You can come through and say, okay, I want to add all of these as exact match. Go through and do that. Or maybe say I wanted this one to be nonstick frying pan. I think that's a really good keyword, and I think things can show up before or after that one and look really good. We can go through and add the parentheses inside of there as well. And then this one, we just want to be a broad match. So you can go through and mix and match the keywords as well. And of course, you can add your own keywords inside of here. So if we wanted to add green nonstick pots, we can add that there and say we wanted that to be an exact phrase match. We could do that as well. So if this was a real account, obviously I would only want keywords related to green inside of here. But just to give you an example of all these different match types, I want to show you that. And then the next thing that you would do is if we were going through and creating this scenario that we were talking about where we wanted nonstick pans in our campaign and we wanted the 11-inch pots, the 15-inch pots in an ad group, and the red pots, we would then go through on this part right here. And this is where you can go through and add a new ad group. This is where we would call this the red pots and pans. red pots, and then you would basically go through and do that same thing. You'd want to go through and enter your keywords, red pots. Let's see if that shows up anything for keywords here, what this shows up for. Yeah, so we have all these different keywords inside of here. You'd want to go through and vet those, and then add your match types inside of each one of them, and then go through and repeat that process. For this one, we're going to keep it simple and just create those two for now, just to give you an example of what those look like. And then we are going to then hit save and continue. Of course, you're going to want to go through and add as many as you need to right here as well. So now we're going to hit save and continue. Oh, one thing actually before we do hit save and continue, this will give you a daily estimate based on your keywords on how many clicks you'll get, the cost per day, and then your average CPC. So you notice here that based on the keywords that we have inside of these ad groups, we can estimate about 27 clicks a day. That's going to cost us about $14.84 a day. And then the average CPC is going to be about 55 cents. And then here you can click down and see the same thing for the red pots, which is really nice. And again, it kind of gives you an idea of how much your daily budget should be inside of there. And I realize I'm out of the way, or in the way. So you can see your daily budget inside of there as well, and all those different options. So now we're going to scroll down. We're going to hit save and continue. And then next you can see we've done step 1, step 2. Now we are onto the actual create ads part. And this is also something that's very important, and something that I do want to highlight, kind of the way that Google bidding auctions and strategies work. So before we create our ads, I do want you to be aware of this. We're going to go back over to these slides here. The way that Google Ads assigns the first position, or the amount that you pay per click, is based on something called quality score. Now, to understand quality score, there is this nice little image that we have here. And basically what this looks like is you have ad position first, second, third, and fourth. And we're in the first position because we know what we're doing, and that's what it's going to be. But you'll notice that our max CPC, a lot of people think that the person who is bidding the most is the person that is in the first position. You notice that it actually, in this case, a lot of times it's more dependent. It's actually all the time, it's dependent more on your quality score than your actual max bid. You'll notice that in this situation, the person that is bidding $3 actually has a higher quality score, and as a result, their ad rank is a lot higher than the competition. This person down here, who is actually paying the most, or that is actually paying the most of $6 per cost per click, is bidding the most, has a really crappy quality score, and as a result, their ad rank is lower, and so they're showing up in the 4th position. So the position that you show up inside of Google is actually up to your max CPC times by your quality score, essentially, is a good way to look at that. And the reason why Google does this is because when somebody Googles something, they want their users to have a really good experience. And so if the ad is really crappy and the landing page is really crappy and the user just leaves, then that's not a good experience for the user, and they're afraid that the user won't continue to use Google. So they want this to be the most seamless experience, and people get exactly what they're searching for. And so it kind of makes sense. And as a result, people search more stuff on Google. Google makes more money. And as a result, the advertiser who is doing the most work is getting the most sales as well. And you may be wondering what goes into a quality score. What goes into a quality score is essentially 3 different things. You have your expected click-through rate, which essentially is the amount of times that Google thinks people will click on your ad. You have your actual ad relevance, and this is where it becomes important to have specific keywords and specific ads related to those keywords. Say if we wanted green pots and pans, we're showing our ad says green pots and pans and keywords relevant to that. And then the last one is your actual landing page relevance. When somebody clicks on the ad, click for green pots and pans, they land on a landing page that talks about green pots and pans instead of one that talks about red pots and pans. And then finally, that gives you your actual quality score. So it's basically just making sure that the customer experience is the same all the way through, from them seeing the ad, clicking the ad, and actually landing on your landing page. So if we go back over here, this is where the landing page, or all the ad text, becomes really important. And you notice here for creating your ads, it gives you an ad strength score. You're going to want to go through and customize this ad till you either get it to good or great, or to great or excellent, essentially. And how you do that is by, of course, coming through, and it's going to say, give me this little warning because it wants me to add the HTTPS. So make sure you do that. HTTPS. We're going to add that, get rid of that. And then here is where you can come through and add headlines. And you can see it's giving me options for ideas on things that I should be adding for my headline. So for optimal ad performance, include these keywords in your headline. So Google is telling me what I should be putting inside of here. So we're going to, this is pulling from my website, and that's why it's adding all these things inside of here. If you add your actual website, it's going to pull those in. But for instance, the first thing that we're going to do here is non-stick pans, right? We want this to be the first keyword that people see. And you notice when we add this, it's going to check it green, meaning that keyword that is inside of our ad group is now showing. And for here, we're going to add, our green, best selection of, selection of green pots go through and add those as well and add those keywords inside. So now you'll notice that it is now firing for green nonstick pots and pans. You basically want to go through and add this until you've added all of your different keywords, your headlines, and add as many of these as possible. You notice that it gives you the option, I think, for up to 10 here. You can keep adding these. Here it's saying that I need to add more unique headlines to improve my quality strength. I've included popular keywords in my headlines, but I need to make more unique headlines. So here we're gonna set shop Cook with Corbin. Pretend that's a legit brand, Cook with Corbin. And then we want to go through and add. So I'm going to go through and fill out this ad real quick. We're going to kind of speed up time a little bit until we get a high quality ad essentially. So now we are back, and as you can see, I've filled out the ad. I've gone through and all these different check marks. I've added more headlines, included popular keywords, make sure my headlines were unique, and then make sure your description is unique as well. And if you're ever curious on different ideas, you can click through here and see different ideas on different ideas that Google recommends for your ads, which makes it really nice when writing this ad copy. And as you can see here, we do have an ad strength of good. I do typically like to continue writing this ad until it gets to excellent, and I do recommend you do the same, especially if you're going to be running real ad dollars towards these. But for now, this kind of gives us an idea on how to set those up. And if you look over here, this will give you a preview of what these ads look like as you scroll through this. You can look at either mobile or desktop. And essentially how this works is Google will go through and test all of these different headlines. It'll show 2, maybe 3 headlines at a time in different orders. If for whatever reason you wanted one headline to show first every single time, you can go through and say, I wanted to say best selection of green pots to show up on my ad on the first headline every single time. You can come through and click pin here and show this as only the first position. That way, every single time this will show up on there. I don't recommend doing that because then it limits the amount of things that Google can go through and test. And as you can see, it dropped my ad strength from good to average. So I do want to go back and get rid of that now, that pin inside there, and then that boosts that back up. So, but it is an option for you if it's something inside of your headline that has to be there or must be there every single time. You could do the same thing with your descriptions as well. Once we have gone through and created that ad for the green nonstick pots and pans, we can then hit save and continue. It's then going to drop us into this option to create. Last thing for you to do is go through and enter in your payment information. I'm not going to do it for this tutorial because this is just a dummy account, but I do want to jump into another account and show you some other optimizations and things that you should look for after your campaign has been created. And once you're done setting all that up, you're going to be dropped into a view that looks something similar to this. Now, if this is your first time inside of Google Ads, this can be a little intimidating. You're going to see a lot of different things inside of here. This is a demo account that I do have as well. The first thing that you'll see is all the different campaigns that you've created. So for here, we do have our non-stick pots and pans that I'm actually going to go through and pause real quick, because I don't want that to actually go through and spend money. But this will show you all of your different campaigns inside of here. You'll notice that there are different icons based on which kind of campaign it is. For instance, this one's a video, this one's a search campaign, this one's a display. You'll also notice on this left-hand side, if you only wanted to look at all of your search campaigns, you can come through and click search campaigns, and then we'll only show the ones that apply to those different settings. If you only want to see your video campaigns, you could do that as well. So this left-hand navigation is a nice way to kind of look through all the different campaigns that you have. If you want to do all campaigns, here's all the ones that are inside of here. And I do want to go through kind of these settings in this left-hand side as well. So you're kind of familiar with the platform. And I also want to walk through some very important settings that you should be aware of. So inside of Google Ads, you'll notice here for our non-stick pots and pans, just going along with the same campaign. When I click inside of here, it's going to open up this little gray menu. And I'm going to go through each of these options with you. Now, for this one, you'll notice I'm in non-stick pots and pans, and these are all the different settings that I'm in. So I'm seeing the ad groups for non-stick pots and pans. If I go here to PPC, you notice that now my ad groups are a different ad group specific to this campaign. So whenever you're working inside of here, you want to make sure that you're in this correct campaign. So we're going to click that, then I'm going to move myself so I'm out of the way, slightly up here in this corner. And inside of here, I'm going to go through all the different settings so you are aware of what they are and kind of what they do. The first thing is we have the overview. Now, when this is actually running, you're going to see data inside of here on what days are performing better or how many clicks or conversions you're getting. So it's something that's very important to kind of keep an eye on. Typically, I don't pay too much attention to this tab just because it's just a high-level overview. Next, we're going to have recommendations. This is where Google is going to recommend different things based on your campaign. As I mentioned, this you're not going to see this because it's paused right now. All the different recommendations. Sometimes Google in this area gets you to spend more money by increasing your budget, but there are also different recommendations that you can go through and look at. As your campaign starts to run, Google will have more recommendations for you. Another thing is insights. This was where Google will talk through some of the insights that you were getting inside of this campaign specifically. And then now is where you can actually come through and edit your ad group. So say that we went into ad groups here. This is where we only created the one for green pots, but this is where I could look to see the performance of my blue pot or my red pots or the 11-inch pots. You can see at the ad group level how many conversions we're getting, how many clicks we're getting, how much that's actually costing us, and if it's worth going through and pausing one of the ad groups because it's spending too much money. Next is we have the auction insights. This is where you can go through and actually see how much impression share you're getting for a competitor, or you're getting as opposed to your competitor. So this will show you how often you're showing up compared to your competition. This is a very useful report if you wanted to come through and look at this. Here is where you can come through and edit your actual ads and extensions. So here you can see this is the ad that I just really quick through and went through and did. And then we have the extensions. You can come through and add another ad here by clicking create ad and then responsive search ad. Here's where you can add more extensions. If you didn't add the ones that you wanted to, or you wanted to go through and edit the extensions that you had, you can come through and click site link extension, or there's all of these different options here as well, a lot that we didn't go over in the video. Next is the landing page report. This is where you can see which landing pages your ads are going to. And the next thing that you'll notice here that is very important is the keywords. And this is what I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about these keywords. In here, you'll find your search keywords, your negative keywords, and your search terms. If we click on the search keywords here, it will show you all the list of keywords that you're bidding on inside of this campaign. You can go through and pause specific keywords, or you can change the match type if you'd like. You could change this from a phrase match to an exact match. So say I wanted this go to pots and pans, and then you'll notice it'll add the brackets in there for me. It will tell me how much clicks I'm getting for these specific campaigns, average cost per click, and conversion rate. And then if I wanted to go through and see the actual search queries that these specific keywords are showing up for, I can click here and click on search terms. I'm not going to have any data yet, obviously, because I don't have any clicks, but you can go through and look at the actual search terms that a pots and pans is currently showing. Now this one, because it's now an exact match, the search queries will only be pots and pans, but for this one that's non-stick pots, that one might show up for not non-stick pots and pans, or green pots and pans, or red pots and pans. And so there could be lots of things that could show up for this keyword specifically because it's a broad match. And that's where negative keywords become very important. Now say that I had this non-stick pots and pans and this green non-stick pots and pans, and this keyword was showing up for things that I didn't want it to. Let's say for an example, I was showing up for a product that I didn't sell. That's where I'd want to go into my negative keywords, and I would want to add negative keywords. And basically negative keywords are keywords that you don't want to show up for, are the things that when people are searching for, you don't want them to show up for. Let's say for instance that people were looking for tutorials on how to use pots and pans, or cooking classes and things like that. That's where you'd want to go through and add, cooking classes or as a negative keyword. And I'm just making things up as I go, but this will obviously, the negative keywords will depend on the keywords that you have. To get your mind kind of going, I do have this list of generic negative keywords that I will put a link to this down below. And this kind of gives you, it basically puts all the different negative the keywords into buckets. For instance, if you wanted to exclude people that were looking for jobs or job related, this could be negative keywords that you could go through and add. If people that are researching, so say that I'm researching different reviews of pots and pans, and I didn't want to show up for those. I only want to show up for the high intent pots and pans. These are different negative keywords that you can add. Or education, say that I'm looking for cooking classes, pots and pans school. I don't know why you'd be searching for that, but so there are lots of different ideas for negative keywords that you can come through and add in here. If you want to exclude bargain shoppers, cheap pots and pans, you could add cheap as a negative keyword. But I'll link this down below just as a resource for those who are unfamiliar with negative keywords and kind of how to use those. So if we go back to here, the last thing to kind of finish up our different settings is here's where you can go through and add audiences. That's a little bit more of an advanced setting that I'm not going to go through. And then here's where you can go through your actual campaign settings. And this is where you can rename your campaign. You can pause it. You can change your goal, the networks that you're on. You can also change the location, language, budget, bidding, and all sorts of different things inside of here. And then down here, there are some more advanced options that I'm not going to get into for the purpose of this tutorial. But that's pretty much everything that I had to go over. Check out the description down below if you wanted more resources for specific things inside of Google Ads. If you want to learn how to use Google Keyword Planner, I do have videos on those. I do have lots of videos just on very specific things inside of Google Ads, but I didn't want to just create one tutorial that walks everybody all the way through very beginning to end on how to set up their Google Ads account and be familiar with the platform. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, it would mean the world to me. If you did, like the video and subscribe if you made it this far. And feel free to leave any questions down below in the comments. I'll be sure to go through and comment and answer any of those questions that you do have. Thanks so much for your time, and we'll see you in the next video.